Elena just got her driver's license, so I let her drive every now and then.
Don't squeeze that in your pocket like you did one time.
I know, we said,
Oh, yeah. Joe, you got too good a memory. You can play that old sick routine. We'll open up, Margaret, if you would lead. Jerry Simmons, would you lead? Well, we'll do the pledge first. Doesn't matter.
Whatever you want to do, boss.
We're gonna do the pledge.
Remain standing.
Yeah, remain standing for the prayer. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for your love and compassion for us, and that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. We thank you for the privilege of being able to assemble in a place like this. We thank you for this country and all the benefits of living here. We know, Lord, that there are many countries where there's not even a chance of citizens being able to gather together, to assemble together. And we do want to say how much we appreciate that. We appreciate also, Lord, you keeping this society together to provide a way that our young people can see what things were like in the old days, see that perhaps they will be able to see just how good that they had it. We ask you to bless this proceedings tonight. May we all go out of there feeling better than we did when we came in. In Jesus' name, amen.
And do you have a financial report?
in our general account, we have $3,874.27, and that was after I transferred the interest from the $50,000 CD that just matured into the general account, and that was almost $2,000. In the old 100 account, we have $1,537.71, and in the Florida grant account, we have $3,533.28, for a total of $8,945.26.
Thank you. Margaret?
The regular monthly meeting, the Alger-Sullivan Historical Society, was held at 6 p.m. Tuesday, August 19, 2008 in the Leach House. Vice President Don Sales called the meeting to order, gave thanks to all who had helped him during the time that he'd been fulfilling the duties of the president, and then turned the meeting over to the returning president, Jerry Fisher. After expressing his appreciation for Don's work during his illness and his pleasure at being able to resume his duties once more, President Fisher led the group in the Pledge of Allegiance. Chaplain Willie Carter gave the invocation, and Margaret Collier read the minutes, which were approved. In reading the treasurer's report, Jerry opened the discussion of the Society's dire financial straits. Although no specific actions were voted on, there was general agreement that steps must be taken to reduce operating expenses and to substantially raise income. Setting up booths at the Munson event in October and the Baker Block event in November should be a good start. The boxcar barbecue and yard sale at the end of November, if properly promoted, and with in-house food preparation, should also help. The cookbook should be ready for sale by that time also. Note was made of the recent on-loan/donation of Arthur Johnson relics, including a CSA belt buckle, World War I manual, gas mask, pictures, and dog tags. Another donation was of railroad magazines with articles about number 100. A post office standing desk from the 40s was also donated this month. Jerry Simmons' appointment as a trustee was approved, and a collection was taken for a brick in memory of Nadine Hudson. Reverend Willie Carter then gave a report on his experience with the CCC over 60 years ago. Some events were funny, some difficult, but that time prepared him for life to come. After the program, refreshments were served by Kay Ross. Billy Ward videoed the program and presented a copy of last month's program for use by the Society. 14 members were present. Respectfully submitted, Margaret Collier, Acting Secretary.
See any corrections to those minutes? Margaret don't like me to ask to vote on them, so we're not going to ask you to vote. We're just going to accept them unless there's a correction. Okay, I guess we're ready to get started. We're blessed tonight. We got two guest speakers. We got Jerry Simmons over here who's going to talk about his book that he wrote. And then we got over here, this gentleman right over here. We'll call him John Wesley Hardin. And we're going to get to both y'all a little later on. Give us just a few minutes to touch on some things here. First of all, if you'll notice over here, we have a lot of stuff over here for sale. It's got a price on it. It's great stuff. It look good in your home. Everybody but Elena's. And she ain't got no money, so she can't buy nothing. But we got cameras in the other room if you want to go into competition with Neil and I. We'd be glad to have you. You can start by buying a table full of them in there. But there is some nice pieces scattered around throughout this. So make yourself at home. It's priced out. Get what you want. But the good part about it is we want you to bring something from your house. Something old, something ancient. You done got me in it. But no, if you got any old books or whatever, we want that. We'll add it to this. And by November the 29th, we should have accumulated enough stuff to have some things up for sale. We've got to make money, and we're not going to ask you for no donations or whatever. You do what you want to do, but help us make some money. And that's our way of getting out of this. Of course, we're already planning on this. I know there's 4 or 5 of us been working on it day and night lately. That particular, we've already got, I think, we've got Morgan Lewis, a little girl from Jay that sings, and she's teaching ballet, I believe it is. Is it time? Okay, so. Then we got Ray's Chapel. They have a large choir, and it's really good. We got them coming up that day. With the agreement, we have a canopy so they can get under it. So we want that. And they're going to be on at 11 o'clock, and then at 11:30, Bobby Holland, Henry Leonard, and Daniel Leonard is all going to, they're going to take over then for an hour. And that's almost half of our time. So if you've got a group, or if some of y'all,
Tell him come on in this way.
the good-looking one come on in, that ugly one can wait out there. Good.
We're sorry, thank you.
Boy, I tell you what, this guy's been late for half the meeting.
I know. Just rejoice.
Yeah.
Because we had Evergreen or wherever.
But Elton Gilmore is going to set up the forestry display from over at Munson too, so we'll have that. We're probably going to do our own cooking. Donald, did you? Donald,
Here.
oh, okay. Did you check on those Boston buds?
Yeah. He's going to give us 2 cases, 16 Boston buds. And he's going to cut them up for us, and then we're going to grill them.
Save a few and we'll put on the smoker too.
Well, we don't need 16. We actually need 12. And that'll give us, 4 to sale at $25 a piece. If anybody wants a Boston bud tonight, give us $25 and you can have one. They're delicious.
You better watch Donald and say, give him the $25 tonight and we get one then. He's liable to get you an armadillo all rolled. But, Donald, that's great. And you also got the stage. I mean, did they say we could use it?
Yeah, they said we can use it.
What we're going to do is the town of Century back in 2000, they listened to this lady. And she got them, along with her helpers, to build a stage. And the town still has that, and they're going to loan it to us for that day. And so we've got to put it up because Ray's Chapel's choir, they're pretty peculiar. They want a good place to perform. And so we told them,
Don't have to put carpet in that.
no, sir, and she said they didn't want Donald helping me to sing. But if we're going to have that,
the only thing we need with that stage, the legs don't work anymore. We wouldn't trust their legs. We need to either bar some cinder blocks, just set it on. It's gonna take quite a few. It's 4 sections of stage, and each section is 10 by 30. It's a big stage, but we can use 1 section, 2 sections, 3 or 4 on the whole thing.
Well, we'll look at it, and we'll get the block. We know some folks at Green's Monument, and might have some old block down there. Oh, David, I forgot you was here. David may have some, I don't know, but if not, we'll find some somewhere. Okay, and we also, Jerry Simmons is going to be emceeing along with Earl right here. Them two is going to take care of the emceeing that day, right, Earl? Yeah, that's right.
What day is it? 29th.
It's November the 29th. So put that on your calendar.
Saturday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And the last time we had this thing, Earl ate so much that he couldn't even talk.
But his wife is doing it right. She went to great MC.
And another thing I got to note there, Neil, I wondered about getting an antique appraiser, and I thought about your buddy right across the Brinks there, or either you. Y'all both worked with that stuff quite a bit, and that seemed to draw some people out the last time that we had that.
I'll ask.
Okay. That's good.
Nevin doesn't like to do that, but Herbert might.
Okay, that would be good if we can just get somebody to give some ideas. The important thing is Margaret and Jerry to get them to cover these things, you know, in their article in the paper each week. And we're also going to put out some little flyers, and that we're going to get them distributed over at Peanut Festival, Munson Day, and Baker Day, Defuniak Springs Day, and Fort Walton Beach Day. All these little events we can give out, some anyway. Maybe we'll get somebody to come. We also hope you got the old clothes that's in pretty good shape. We want to give away these clothes. We're not going to sell them. We'll give them away. And hopefully this will be a draw.
Did you say, what's the lady's name? And when they end up on our porch and we can't get rid of them, she's going to come get them?
Oh, Marilyn Robinson.
Robinson.
Is that her name, Marilyn?
It is.
Yeah, okay. And we'll get that taken care of. So we can't lose.
Thank you, last word. Wish you hadn't said
You
that.
did incredible.
They'll end up on my back porch.
Nothing to do with that. That's his idea.
All right, Margaret, here you go. You're going to wound up in that daggum corner. Let's see, what do they call that up in Virginia that our little grand boy stays in? Time out. Our little old grandson stays in time out so much they just moved his desk at the corner. Okay, does anybody else have anything that would like to make an announcement about tonight? Is there any?
Just
Yes, sir.
one little thing, Jerry. If you hadn't seen our latest exhibit that goes along with the dental office, everything we need to set up a dental office for the year 1900, it's in the medical room in here. And you can have your false teeth remade or whatever. I can do it for you. And it won't cost you very much.
We do like George Washington. By the way, put you out some wooden teeth.
We got everything but wooden teeth. Actually, our teeth is, look like they're ivory.
Yeah, they were really
Do we
rough
have
teeth
locks
anyway.
on the cabinet yet?
And we're going to put locks on them.
Go on to the
Margaret.
old code.
Those things had keys when we got those cabinets.
But we didn't get them, did we?
We had to get them open.
Boy, if we could find those keys, that'd sure save us
You
about
looked in
$20.
you looked in the desk in there?
Yeah, I couldn't find
What
anything.
this is all about is we had a lady with her hand in there getting them
Yeah.
Those
medications out.
manifests.
Okay,
Yeah, she was pouring out some white powder, and if any of y'all want some of this white powder, let me tell you what it is before you go. She thought it was something else, but actually it's an adhesive bond, and I think she actually ate some of it before I caught her, and I imagine she had a stomachache that night.
Donald hollered, don't do that. Don't be greedy. Let me have half of it. But anyway,
Okay.
She just got that phone. Which one, Jerry, is you or Margaret is real good friends with Shelton? Usually gets in touch with him about the antique car show. You know, is he coming?
He's supposed to get back with me.
Okay, so we're going to have the antique cars here on the 29th too.
Yeah, there's not something else already planned for him.
If this, yeah,
He hasn't given me the idea yet, he said he'll get back.
okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Lloyd.
Do you need somebody to sing the national anthem?
Yeah, we don't need you to.
No. I might get my granddaughter.
Oh, really?
She
Great,
did
great.
it last year,
Yeah.
but they didn't
No,
have
good
it.
job.
They didn't
Okay.
have the speaker fixed up. I'll have to check with her and see now. and let you
Okay.
know.
Okay, let me know here, because I won't look for nobody else here.
If she can't make it, you will do it.
Yeah, I'll do it if she can't make it.
Lloyd, we want folks to stay, not get away.
You'd have a crowd if they knew I was going to do it.
Yes. If your church has a choir that you would like for them to sing, or would like for me to contact them, you tell me about it, and I'll call them up and try to schedule. Because we love to keep local people doing this if we can. So, just let me know, or if you want to sing, or if you got a friend that wants to sing, let me know, and we'll schedule 15 minutes, 30 minutes, or an hour. Yes, sir.
The Dogwood Dulcimer group, not the whole group, because it's huge.
Uh-huh.
Most of them is going to be here that day too, Jerry.
Okay, try to find out what time of the day that they can perform.
Okay, I think they're going to be
They're all day?
all day, so they'll
Great.
fill in.
We put them in the morning and then again in the evening.
And Andy Griffith's sidekick, Barney Five,
Oh, I like it.
he'll be here.
Everybody.
Writing tickets, you know, and
That's
you want
great.
your picture taken with him, you can, Neil will be glad to do that for you, for a small fee.
And Neil will take your picture and he'll give you a camera free of charge when you sold all them minutes of it.
It's a good idea.
Okay, was there anything else we need to get on to tonight? Remember the entertainment, that's our key, and remember to promote this thing yourselves. Right now, what did I forget, Mom?
Just remember, all this is not done by the good fairies. But we're all gonna have to be here.
Definitely
And help
so.
sell stuff, help show the museums, there's enough work. And some of you are younger than I am. This old gal don't go all there like she used to, so we got to, of course, we're not all young like her here.
She don't go strong until I mess up, or Jerry messes up, or Donald, or Neil, and then she's strong enough to scold us. So we can never have something like this if Margaret don't scold us. Okay, right now we're fixing to get into, I don't know if y'all have seen it, but if you hadn't seen it, you should see it, and you should get you a copy of this book. This is a beautiful book right here, and it's $40. I'm letting the cat out of the bag again.
It's 45 if we sell it to you.
Oh, is it 45? We said that. But it's the history of Florida. And it's a great book. It certainly is. You know anybody that sucker enough to buy 4 of them? He's got to believe in them.
They're going fast, so you.
Yeah, I bought 4 because Jerry told me these are the last 4. Jerry, stand up. He's going to talk to us for a while here on his book that he wrote. Then we'll come right back again.
Well, one of the things, there's several things in what you just said that's not quite right. I mean, I wrote the book. Jerry Fisher, if it had not been for him and his photographs, then this book would not be published because most of the photographs in there came from his collection. So I'm not taking the credit nor the blame. Now, when I say blame, one of the first fellows to call me and tell me I had a mistake in there with this guy standing right over there. I got a thing in here that says John Wesley Hardin was killed in San Antonio. And he called and says, "It's El Paso, son." And he's right. I don't know what happened. I guess when I was typing that in I was thinking El Paso, I was thinking San Antonio instead of El Paso. What we'll do, I know most of you can't see that. Let me see if I can do something here. Where's the lights at?
Trying to kill the camera.
You gotta kill the camera.
This one here, Will?
Track, so.
Yeah, go ahead and kill the camera.
It stayed up.
Nope.
Can most of you see the screen? Nope.
I see it back
Well,
of the
some
head.
people like Mark that need spectacles, y'all come up a little closer. I'm just, if you got the book, then you'll
He
probably,
had a way to put it up higher.
Neil, would you hold it up high?
What is it?
I was reading out for the slang, so I would know that I couldn't do that. I'm not gonna put my laptop on that monitor up there. You're not gonna miss a whole lot if you can't see it anyway, because what I'm gonna do is really more than anything, talk about it. The book came, to pass, I guess May of 2007 was the first meeting that the Wilmington Centennial Committee had, or early in 2007, anyway. And, Jerry Fisher talked me into it, coming up there. He said that you and I, and we'll get together and we're gonna put a book together. Well, the next thing you know, Jerry gets sick, and then I have to do it. Gee whiz. Tough stuff. I'll tell you, if it had not been for Jerry, all through those times though, all through that time that he was sick, he still helped considerably with the information. And, of course, the photographs. And that right there is the gist of the committee. These pictures are out of the book. If you can't see them now, then, freeze my palm with $40 and I got a box of them over here. But these are people that were involved in the book creation and Centennial Committee period. Dorothy Weaver Tomey, Clara Jackson until she passed, Margarita Jones, Wanda Van Landingham, Orson Fisher, Beverly Simpson, George Hendricks, and Lynette Tomey, and that good-looking guy, of course, you know who he is. The premise of this thing never was to be a history book. A lot of people say, well, you didn't write a history book. I said, no, I didn't. Look at the title. It says it's a scrapbook. And the inside leaf of the front cover describes what a scrapbook is. Scraps or fragments of things. And a book is where you put all this stuff together in one compilation. So that's what this was always meant to be. I didn't fancy myself as being able to write a history book. Plus, I didn't have any intention of doing that much research on my own, even though I spent countless hours looking at microfilm of newspapers from the 1890s to about in the 1980s up there at the museum, at the Alabama Root, the museum where, of course, I spent Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 3, most Tuesdays and Thursdays anyway. The research was fun. I found out a lot of things I didn't know that didn't go in the book, and a lot of things about my own family. I found some articles about my grandpa, and he wasn't really a horse thief like Jerry's always told me. He might have been a liar and a cheat, but he wasn't a horse thief.
It was a mule.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So anyway, I'm really not too sure how to go about this, but I did find out that there was a prolific writer that knew Bob Hardy. Has anybody ever heard of Bob Hardy? He was a desperado that hung out in Bluff Springs. I don't know, maybe they gravitate down there because we got another one down in Bluff Springs there too. They just moved in.
Hey,
Not
talking
talking
about
about
you,
these
David.
other folks here. Not talking about the others. I'm talking about the one that just moved in there recently.
Jerry, did you get a picture of him?
Bob Hardy? No.
What we do?
I need to get it from you because somebody's going to do a volume 2. There's a tremendous amount of information that was left out of this book. But you know, it's coming out of the woodwork now. Just like this. You should have got my picture, but I did want to sure get that picture. Bob Hardin and Ruth Burrows. You've heard of Ruth Burrows? Well, if you saw the play, then there was a little scene in there where Lynn Lambert beat her husband with a parasol because Ruth Burrows robbed the train right before they got into Flomaton. If you didn't see the play, you missed a lot of fun. And R.W. Brooks, as I said, he was a prolific writer, and one of his favorite topics was on local history. In 1939, he wrote for the Flomaton Journal about his impressions when he first saw Flomaton. He called it a mud hole. He said that he couldn't imagine a worse place for anybody to build a junction for a railroad, and to feel that the things that went into the triangle there, he said people wouldn't believe all the stuff that was filled into that. So if you notice, in just north of the sandwich deli, along where Tarzan is, in South Flomaton, out there, there's a swampy area, definitely a swampy area. So they swapped, instead of building the railroad across where the old Fanny Bridge was, they swapped a 2,000-foot trestle through a swamp, to about a half a mile through a swamp, but it still was cheaper.
Was that Brooks, the Baptist minister?
He was a Baptist minister, yeah. He was at Bluff Springs for a while. And he wrote a lot. And in doing some of the research, as a matter of fact, I found that he's my grandson's great-great-grandfather's brother. Now, that doesn't mean much to you, but to be bumping around in history and find the name of somebody who is related to my own grandson. Of course, as you can probably figure out, it wasn't on my side of the family, but it was on his daddy's side. But I thought that was kind of a coincidental thing, and so it a little bit of interest for me. But let's see, I was going to say something else. Oh, can anybody give me a good reason for the existence of Flomaton? I mean, being for a century, there's no good reason for existence of Flomaton, is there?
I can tell you, but you go ahead. You're doing a good job.
I can tell you that the line was there whenever them outlaws would just jump across the track and they'd be free.
Well, that could have been one reason, but that's what they used it for.
Yeah.
That was not the reason for it. The railroad junction.
Which side did it jump from?
From Alabama to Florida,
okay.
you know.
The reason for Flomaton's existence, and of course even Pollard's existence, as short-lived as it was, as being a thriving town, was greed on the part of Pensacola businessmen. Pensacola had done all they could do to market their goods and products by way of port. The only way that they could expand their markets and try to get Pensacola to be a little more thriving was to build a railroad up toward the interior of the country. So goods could go back and forth. So greed of the part of Pensacola is the reason for Flomaton's existence in my mind. I'm sure there are a lot of other reasons too. I'm sorry, I got a bug in my throat here. But I don't know if you can see this picture, but the port of Pensacola was quite busy, and they just couldn't do any more. So the only way they could do it would be to get a railroad up through here. So they did. They're the ones that pushed for it, showing up with Mobile and Montgomery, Mobile and Great Northern Railroad. Actually, at one time there were 3 railroads, one from Mobile to, or from Tensas to Flomaton Junction, from the Flomaton Junction to Pensacola, and from Montgomery to the Flomaton Junction. And that's one of the reasons, of course, they had the junction there. Okay. The book has a few maps in there that you might find of interest. And as you look at the pictures in here, there are a lot of them, many of them, I believe 4 out of the 6 or 7 pictures on this page right here are from Jared's collection. So, and a lot of you may have were some that you may not have seen before. They were, I just couldn't imagine. I'm afraid that I may have left a lot of people out when I gave credit for the back of the book, because there were so many people that gave pictures and stories and anecdotes. And I'm sorry. Let's just give you a sample of some of the photographs that are in there. Oh, does anybody recognize this right here? That's not the Scandal Drive-In.
I went there, but I never did see it.
You didn't see it because you went there at night and you was in the back seat looking the other way. So. Hey, thank you, God. I hope that works.
The Cedric Drive-In?
Yeah.
That's not it, but it's close. And if you didn't, you're probably the only one besides me that knows that now. I found that picture on the internet, and it looked so much like Scandal Drive-In. I thought I'd use it, and I did use it. So anyway,
Nobody knew the difference.
nobody knows the difference, but it looks so much like it that, like I said, y'all and me are the only ones that know about it.
It's got everything except the pines.
Right.
That's right.
Who's the kid in the car?
Which car?
That's Neil.
I don't know who is that. I don't know who that is. You? You don't know? I don't know either.
That never?
No, that's a picture taken in 1951, I believe. 1951. And I believe that's one that I got from Claire Jackson.
I gave it to you.
Did you? Did you? Okay.
Yeah, they got it from Claire.
Okay, okay. Then these are some examples of commercials or advertisements, that is, that I copied out of the newspapers. That was kind of an interesting exercise because we have two microfilm machines up there at the museum. One of them displays it on a small screen, and you can't see the whole page at one time unless you get it really small. And that's the one that I can make like a Xerox copy of. Well, if you look at that for 2 or 3 days in a row,
Go blind.
you go blind, exactly. And that's the reason I wear double thick glasses today. But there's another one that gives a whole page of the paper right there. And what I wound up doing was going through and running through the pictures of the newspapers, and if I found an article that was interesting, I'd write it down, the date, page number, etc., and then I'd put that microfilm on the other microfilm reader, and then make a copy of it. Then I would have to, then I'd scan it, put it in the computer, doctor it a little bit to try to make it a little bit more readable. So I guess I'm trying to tell you it was really hard to do. Took a lot of extra stuff. Now that picture there is one that fascinated me. That is probably right about across the street from the shoe shop. That was Bank of Flaughton. Drury, who was one of the pioneers of Flaughton, J.W. Drury, I believe it was, related to Jimbo Justice. He was here a couple of years ago and talked about his family, and this was part of his donation to the town. That 2-story building there, which of course is not there anymore, was Drury's Hall. And after ball games, in the 1890s, he'd invite the kids, the boys up because to have a celebration. And there was one article in the paper, and it was mentioned in the play. It said, "Why we stayed up till 11:30." That was pretty exotic for him, I guess. And the first City Hall of Flomaton was on the ground floor there, as well as the Bank of Flomaton, which was the first bank that lasted any length of time. It closed. Dates are running together. I believe it closed in 1926, probably as a result of Escambia County Bank being formed in 1924. Could have been. Who knows? says San Antonio, whoops. I believe I changed that to El Paso. I already changed that one. Oh, let me back up here, point out something here that was really quite interesting. This airplane was a plane that was flown by Fred Jones in Flamerton, Carl's brother. Of course, he was born, I guess, right here in Century. His dad lived in Century, but the bank was started in Flamerton. I guess they figured that Flamerton had more money than Century did. But that picture, that plane is right over here, and Fred's picture is right above it. Fred Jones is this guy right here on the right. The account of Black Sunday in 1943 was where there was a massive bunch of bombers that went from Libya over to bomb a plant in Poland, and everything that could go wrong with that, 300-something bombers I think it was, everything that could went wrong, and Fred's plane was shot down in the iconic sea. Anybody heard of the iconic sea? It's still called that. It's a little stretch of ocean between the heel of Italy and the continent of Europe. That little area there is called Iconic Sea. Anyway, there was the map, the book shows a map where it could pinpoint where his plane went down. I guess the rest of the thing, we really need to just kind of get the book and look at it. I think you'll find that it's not that it's done real good because I did it. It was done real good because I had a lot of help. And the printers, the graphics people that worked on it were extremely helpful in helping me get everything just right. And they are from Wheaton, Illinois, so don't let anybody tell you that Yankees are all bad. Not all of them. Just like all Southerners are not all good either. Not all of them. Y'all have any questions? Let me tell you about the price of the book. I didn't get any pay for this book. My pay is that for every book the Escambia County Historical Society sells, we get $5. So in other words, we sell it for $40. We pay the town of Florenton $35. And they're not supposed to give a discount to anybody else but Escambia County Historical Society, because if it had not been for that, most of the book wouldn't have been done too. There were so many valuable inputs, so many valuable contributions to it. And so what I'm saying is, you got it for sale in there at $45. I'd love for you to sell it for $45 because that means Alger-Sullivan Historical Society gets 5. Escambia County Historical Society gets 5. Town of Florenton gets 35. These books cost around $27 a piece. So that means somebody's got $27,000 tied up, but they need to get the money back. So every book that they sell, every dollar they make gets to repay that. I'd like to encourage you to buy it either from here or from me or somebody else in the Escambia County Historical Society. There are other places you can buy it in Florenton, but we don't get any benefit out of it. Now, any questions? That's all I have, then. Thank you very much for your attention. I do have some books up here if you want one. And I'll sign it, but you're not getting any refund. That's my name.
Thank you, Jerry. Now we have a gentleman that's from Texas and Mexico and all over the place, and even dabbles down around the Mayan Indians. He's an archaeologist, and right now he's researching John Wesley Hardin He has written a screenplay on John Wesley Hardin, and they're fixing to make a movie out of it. And it's going to be filmed in this area. I say this area, but closer up around Bruton and up above Bruton and Castleberry, around a place called Bull Slough up there, and I don't know where else. But I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Bradbury.
I have rheumatoid arthritis and I have a tweak in my back. Fill you in a little bit more. I actually lived in Pollard at one time, and I lived in the house that John Wesley Hardin lived in, and I was there when I was about 4 years old. And that house belonged to Malcolm McMillan. I'm sure you're familiar with who he was, but he was the sheriff of Escambia County at that time, and he's Ed Lee McMillan's son. Ed is McMillan's son from the Ed Lee McMillan people. So anyway, I kept that story in mind for many, many years, and about 20 years ago I wrote this screenplay. At that time you couldn't sell a Western, but it sold just recently, and we'll be filming, most of it will be filmed in Texas and in New Mexico. But since it took place, part of the, at least the last capture took place here in this area, we tried to do a cost analysis to see if we couldn't film on location here. We will be filming it, it appears, if the cost is equals to what they were going to do in East Texas, which is the same terrain basically that we have here. But it will be filmed in Pollard, in Castleberry, and Burnt Corn, primary locations for the filming. So anyway, that's the whole point. I do research now, historical research for the movies, and do set locations. I found the location for Lonesome Dove, which I think many of you have seen. We filmed that at Happy Shahan's and a ranch in Bracketville, Texas. I also found the location for Predator, the Beastmaster, and just lately, the last one we worked on was There Will Be Blood, the Daniel Day-Lewis movie out in Marfa, Texas. So anyway, I brought a couple of items I thought y'all might want to see. My family were actually from here. My father was born over by Burnt Corn in Belleville, Burnt Corn area. I was born in Damascus, if y'all know where that is. Actually, I was born at Old Fish Pond, if anybody knows where that is, which no longer exists there. But it was thriving when I was born, it was still to a certain extent. I worked with Mr. Wentworth when I was in high school and went off to college. I did an undergraduate at Southern Mississippi, and I still could never pass Mr. Wentworth's museum going back and forth without stopping. And if you go into the museum down there, I'm the young man that's standing with Mr. Wentworth in the elevator. As you go up, if you walk straight back, you'll see. But there were a lot of photos we took there at that time, and I spent most of the day there yesterday reviewing some things. John Wesley Hardin, I saw this weapon. I have his gun. I saw the weapon in 1965 with Braden Ball and Mr. Wentworth, and a great uncle of mine from over in Milton, if any of you knew. But Martin Luther King was my great uncle, and the school in Milton is Martin Luther King. It's named after him, as he was superintendent of education and the principal of the school there. So it's not named after Martin Luther King Jr., it's named after Martin Luther King. We all saw this gun. It was written up in the 1930s by the Mobile Press Register, and then in 1954, Pensacola News Journal did an article on it, and one of the relatives actually took the gun out and fired it at that time for the photographer and for Braden Ball and some others that were down. The Montgomery Advertiser came down as well for that. I saw it in 1965 when three ladies came in. Two were sisters. They were great nieces of Mr. Sheriff Hutchinson, who was the sheriff of Escambia County, Florida at that time, and was in on the capture. He kept this gun for all those years. They kept it in storage. Mr. Wentworth told me if it ever came available I should buy it no matter what. And I kept that in mind, and about 3 years ago, I got the opportunity to go to New York and purchase a gun. I had to pay a tidy sum, as you can imagine, but not as much as what it's really will be worth. But we're hoping to use this as an item that will draw some media attention to this area when we do the filming. Now, we believe that our cost will be very competitive to them filming part of the movie in East Texas. So we're hoping that we can do it over here. We'll get more media attention if we come here. I also have all the photos, as many as I've been able to collect over 20 years of researching, a little more than that. I have the Brown Bowen family, which I know most people are familiar with John Wesley Hardin, in that John Wesley Hardin's wife was a Bowen, and her Brown Bowen was an outlaw who was taken back and hanged in Texas, captured by William Chip, very close to here. I also have many other photos. I told you Bob Hardin. I collected those over the years, and I'll have those and get y'all copies of whatever for that too. Anyway, I won't take up much of your time. I just thought maybe, I think a couple of you did see these. A number of the weapons that I have are actually part of my family, which are from here in Escambia and Connecticut counties. So,
Can I ask you a question before you go there? Brown Bowen in the book says he was buried in Oak Grove, Florida.
Actually,
That was James' brother.
Okay.
Okay, and Oak Grove, he ain't buried in Oak Grove,
No. Brown Bowen's buried in Texas. I even talked.
No, that's right. It's his sister and them are buried out there.
Very likely.
There's probably several Oak Groves though too.
Obviously it is, but I walked that whole cemetery over and it's got a picture in the book.
No, he was taken and actually hanged in Texas. And
Yeah.
He's buried in Hardin County, Texas. I was just speaking to Mr. Cummings today, as a matter of fact. He called me on the phone and we talked about that, so it popped into my mind too. And he has photos of the burial out there. I work with Leon Metz, who's a very prolific writer out of El Paso, who did most all of the popular Western heroes or infamous people. I don't know which, but Leon's book is what I took most of the streams looking for. Anyway, this is the gun, and it's been in the same family, even without the provenance on it. Any of you gentlemen are gun collectors, you can see that the gun in itself is worth $30,000, even if it wasn't belonging to him, which would make it probably about $150,000.
Now you know there's thieves around here.
We wasn't gonna tell you.
Man, he's already been talking about one of
That's
them.
not the only gun I have.
But there's some thieves around here that'll steal your radio out of your house and leave your music playing again.
Okay. And it's probably some of our own. If you notice this, the gun handle is, you can feel the worn. You can also look onto the cylinder itself. These cylinders were made with an imprint of usually a battle scene of some type. You can see it to a certain extent. That tells you that was very worn, that pistol was used a lot. Yet everything matches serial numbers and it's in excellent condition. That tells you one of two things, according to Leon Metz, that the gun was used by an outlaw or a lawman and cleaned every day. And they were the only people who had the time to do such a thing, but that was their life. So anyway,
That's John Wesley Hardin.
that was taken off of John Wesley Hardin by Sheriff William Hutchinson, the sheriff of Escambia County.
Yeah, and it comes coming.
I first got interested, as I said, that I lived in that house in Pollard. By the way, the house is still standing in Pollard. If you go up there where the church is with the bell that had come out of off of one of the ships, the paved street ends right there just behind the church. If you look in the wooded area, the house behind there in the woods is the house that he was living in. That house belonged to Malcolm McMillan at that time. It belonged in the McMillan family until sometime in the 1930s. And then I think some people from Ohio have it now, which I've been in touch with them just recently. It's not a livable house, but I lived there when I was 3 or 4 years old.
I can remember when people lived there.
Okay, well, I was there at that time. So, anyway, that pistol was viewed by many people over the years, so the provenance on it is really good. My uncle Mac Thomas Johnston from Johnstonville, that's where many of you know where that happens to be, on the Brooklyn-Castleberry Road, is Johnstonville, and that's where my family's from. Mac Thomas Sr. was a mason in Castleberry, and the train, as you remember, or many of you do, that Sheriff Hutchinson and the Texas Ranger, John Armstrong, would not allow the train to stop in Pollard or Bruton because they believed that Malcolm McMillan would have taken John Wesley Hardin off the train and released him. So they went through there without stopping, and they refused to go any farther when they got to Castleberry, and they stopped the train in Castleberry. They took John Wesley off the train there and held him in the bank, as there was no, at that time there was no jail in Castleberry. So he was held in the bank that's on the corner of the building, still standing and all there now. Well, some of the Masons that were there, the count was 5 or 6, and they escorted him to Montgomery to ensure that he got there alive, as John Wesley Hardin was a Mason as well. They didn't try to release him, they just wanted to make sure he got there alive. At that point in time, the rule in Texas was that if anyone had committed a capital crime and had escaped or been released, bribed his way out of jail, and he was outside of the state of Texas, later they actually included the state of Texas under those same rules, but they said if that happened, then he was not to be returned to Texas. They wouldn't go with the expense or taking the chance of him being released again. He was to be killed while escaping. This was all set up for this to happen on the way to Tallahassee, as he was supposed to be captured in Pensacola and taken to the federal courthouse in Tallahassee. But they made the mistake of not capturing him and the train not stopping until it got to Whiting. Therefore, it became the jurisdiction of the federal courthouse in Montgomery. There was a confrontation when it got to Castleberry that they still wanted to take him to Tallahassee. But these Masons said, no, it's a federal jurisdiction of Montgomery, and he went there. He was literally kidnapped and was within 2 hours of being released from Montgomery when they did get the warrant came in from Texas to extradite him. So anyway, I've done quite a bit of research on him, as if you read some of the writings that we produced over the years. But I just wanted to touch base and show you that maybe, and then while I'm here, maybe I'll take a few minutes and explain that my family have always had the love of history that I do, and Rebecca is an anthropologist, and she's from Texas, and she's one of the daughters of the Republic of Texas, and she's a great-great-granddaughter of Burleson, the first vice president of Texas. So we both have this love, and we share it, and we research either. We're going in her family, we're from Alabama originally, Burleson's and the priests. We're going up North Alabama to research her family now. My great-great-grandfather, William H., as I said, carried that gun and another gun in the Civil War. The family have preserved it over the years. We also have a sword that we believe that he picked up at some point in time, but it was with the material that came from him. The other one is another William Bradbury. My father was William and my brother was William. Another William Bradbury, which was the grandfather of the one in the Civil War. If you read Mrs. Waters' book, and I notice you have it in there, you'll see it mentions a Lieutenant William Bradbury trying to rally the troops at the Battle of Burnt Corn. So he was actually cited and said to be one of the heroes of Burnt Corn. if there were any. But later he was wounded in the Creek War and did die. He was wounded in that battle first and survived, but later in the Creek War he was wounded and died. And we believe that he was killed at Horseshoe Bend, but we're not sure of that. But we have his weapons and all, and a number of other items that we're going at this time and downsizing. We have a ranch 3 hours south of Cancun in Mexico, and we're living in West Texas and Alpine, Texas right now. She's from Austin. I did quite a bit of research over the years. I worked with the Mayans, if any of you are familiar. You may have seen some of the documentaries we did on the Mayan culture. Was director at several archaeological sites, Kohun Leach, Calakmul, Chichen Itza. You can see them on PBS quite a bit, and some of the Discovery Channel. So anyway, we did a research a number of years ago on our ancestors and your ancestors who left during Reconstruction and went to Mexico. Many went on down into Brazil and other countries, but about 10,000 people actually went to Mexico, of which close to 5,000 remained there. Many of them did come on back, and the ones that came back, most of them settled in Texas rather than coming all the way back over here. But during that period of time, they had nothing left from the Civil War, so they went down, and a lot of them settled in a little community called Tuxpan, just above Veracruz City. We have E.E. Townsend family, the W.W. Townsend family, who many relatives were here from over in Sanford, but they went and ended up back in Texas too. But they had first gone to Veracruz. Their Alabama Hills are the name of a mountainous range there in Veracruz and on the border of Chiapas State in Mexico. I went down and interviewed a number of these people and wrote some papers a few years ago, but they don't know anything much about their ancestors. They have their foot lockers with their uniforms and swords, and they dress up for Mardi Gras and march in their parade that Veracruz celebrates Mardi Gras more so than Mobile and New Orleans. That we counted at one time over 700 floats in a parade that they had there. The kids dress up in those uniforms, and they have even made duplicates and whatever in March, but they don't quite understand why they're there. And I only found a couple of people, one in particular who helped me to locate some of the families that were there. There were some Macmillans, there were some McClellans, Finleys, Foshis, any number of these, all the same names of the same people that are right here in these Tri-County area here in Florida and Santa Rosa County and Covington, Escambia, Connecticut County, all the same people. They just never came back home. So anyway, that's about all I have to say. If anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I have a few other guns if anybody would like to see. This one here, for example, it was carried by William H. Bradbury, and it in itself, this was a pistol that should have been outdated when it came to the Civil War, but at Harper's Ferry they converted them. As you know, the Confederate soldiers had very few weapons to work with. They literally used whatever they did, and many of them didn't carry anything more than just a shotgun at that time. But this gun would normally have been outdated for the Civil War, but it went back to Harper's Ferry, and they're all stamped where they did this conversion on this at Harper's Ferry. Some were even done for the Mexican War, but these were confiscated with the 2,000 of the others from the early raid on Harper's Ferry. It was very coincidental that my great-great-grandfather, William H., would have ended up with two of the ones from Harper's Ferry, as there wasn't that many weapons confiscated. But we haven't been able to determine if possibly he was somehow involved in that early raid. We haven't determined that at this time, but we are researching to see if that's it. But this gun should not have been used at that time, but there were some of them still around. And I think that they figured there was somewhere in around 1,100 of these that were converted. So,
What's the caliber of that gun?
I think that's a 69 caliber.
Boom.
It's very unusual and there's a young gentleman from here, I don't know if you, he's from this area that works up at the archives in Montgomery, Bob Brantley, is he, you know him? Anybody? I think he's from actually near Atmore, but he works in the weapons in Montgomery at the archives, and he's helping us do some research now, because we have a number of other items to do. I wanted to do it, I just had too many other things to do for the past 30 years.
Gee, when you mentioned burnt corn, an elderly lady just died in Atmore. Her name was Imogene Brantley, and her sister had written several books about the history of the burnt corn area, and I had one of them, and Miss Imogene had given me, and I donated it to the Atmore Library. It has a lot of information about that whole area.
Yeah, I think that was Mary Brantley.
Mary.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, there's quite a bit of writing on that area, and just a relative of mine, it seems like everybody in these 3 counties is somehow related. Keep running across people that
Picture is good.
yeah. So anyway, that's about it. If anybody has anything that they would like to ask.
Show the small one.
Okay. Oh, yeah. This always seems to get people's attention in that I have 2 of these. These are a little weapon that Smith and Wesson manufactured these, and they were one of their best sellers. It's a lady's pistol. It's actually called a Lady Smith. Mr. Wesson brought out Smith along about the time they were manufacturing this pistol, and when he found out who was buying them, he quit selling them, although it was a highly profitable item for him. They're often referred to as cat housers.
Yeah, I was thinking that'd be useful. You will pay.
But he actually just stopped producing them right in the middle of his time. It's in the sock because it's been in the sock for about 30 years.
What would be the caliber?
That was just 22. I think they made some in 25s, but I've never seen one, but I was told that they did. And then these are one of the ones of the type that I collect, and this was a very prominent pistol at that time, carried by the Jameses. John Wesley Hardin had these as well. This one,
Sure, McDonald had one.
yes, and it's disappeared, and we're trying to locate it
Told
this
you.
time. As a matter of fact, I'm going back up to see Thomas tomorrow and see if we can get into the archives up at the courthouse, although most of those records may have disappeared, and get a serial number for the one that he had. It's pretty well understood throughout the weapons community that I collect this model of gun. This is called a Thunderer. These were made as lightnings in smaller, up to the 38 caliber, and then this is a 41, and they were called Thunderers. So, and this is one of the best examples. I brought it because it is one of the best examples of anyone in existence.
Where's the serial number on the one that the sheriff knows?
They don't have it on record at the ASHS.
I've got some very close photographs that I took before it disappeared.
Well, if you do, we would love to get a serial number.
Those pictures, of the handcuffs in the.
Yeah, I've seen that
Yeah,
photo, but we
I've got-
can't determine the
I've
serial
got-
number off of it.
No, I've got the negative, and you can.
Well, if you do, that would be great, Jerry, if you could get that. If you could get that, I do believe that I could find that weapon because
This picture,
It's here, it may not show, but.
this is the picture that Neil had, I think.
Oh.
And, we blew it up tremendously, and.
we still couldn't.
No, Neil didn't make that one, I made that one, Neil's probably got a different.
Oh, okay,
I
okay.
think I've got it. Doesn't leave for me to see.
You can sell it to me, then
I know that the Magnolia will be really excited to get that piece back. And Thomas is like Ed Lee was in that, I have some of the original letters of Ed Lee's, by the way, as he was frequently in the Johnstonville community and passed down through the family. But as you know, Ed Lee wrote great history on all the counties here, and Thomas is, I think, has just as much a love for history as Ed Lee. But anyway, that one model is a model that I collect. Other than the others, they're just happenstance that I have them. But they come down through the family. Some we don't even know why particularly, except this one, we know was taken off of a gambler who we shot and killed. And this one's going to be in a museum. This one's going to go to a museum either in San Antonio or Houston, both the museums want. We're donating a number of items back to different museums now.
When are you gonna donate something?
We're going to get you something. That's what we're trying to do right at the moment. And I know that some of you came in a little bit later. The cane that I'm using right now was made for William F. Bullock. And he wrote the bill. He was a senator from Kentucky, and he wrote the bill in the 1830s for the first public school in the state of Kentucky. He also started the first school for the blind, and their museum called me a few days ago, and they want this. The handle comes off, and it's 43 grams of better than 22 karat gold. So they appraised it in the neighborhood of about $5,000. So what I asked would that I would donate this to them if they would give likes of something that pertains to the museums here, whether it's the Thomas Macmillans or here or Pensacola or the archives in Montgomery, but we have a number of other items that we are going to donate up to the archives. So,
Brooklyn Century would really look good.
yeah, okay. Well, if they will transfer different pieces, a lot of museums don't have authority to sell something, but usually they slip this little thing in where they can trade for things of like value. So if we can do that, we'll be happy to donate these items to them and get something transferred to the area. We've done a number with Rebecca's and some museums out there. I've been working in the movie industry now, doing historical research and finding locations for 20-some odd years. And over the years, we bought a ranch in the White Mountains in Arizona that joined John Wayne's 26 Bar Ranch. And when Patrick went to sell it to the Hopi Indian tribe, we bought all the furniture and all the latter memorabilia that John Wayne collected from the ranch. Our dining room set and all was made by George Montgomery, who's a cowboy actor who was married to Dinah Shore for 19 years. He made our dining room table and all. There's a whole wing at the museum in Palm Springs, California, a whole wing dedicated to his furniture. Quit in the middle of his career and went back to making furniture. His grandfather invented Gorilla Glue, if any of you have ever used Gorilla Glue. Yep. Well, there's a border around our table about this far of wood all the way around it. The table was made for John Wayne at that ranch, and you can imagine what kind of activity went on that dining room table, and that wood doesn't show the slightest inclination for that border to come off, and it's merely glued on. But we have a lot of other memorabilia. We're going the second week in October. We're going to be at the film festival in Lone Pine, California, where they filmed over 800 different movies there, from mostly Western, Star Wars, and many others. Being heard, all those movies you thought were filmed overseas were actually filmed in that area there. And by the way, the name of those mountains are Alabama Hills. All those, Mount Whitney is in the Alabama Hills. But we have a number of those things that we're donating as well. For an example, if any of you saw the movie Michael with John Travolta, did any of you happen to see that one?
Yep.
If you'll watch the last 15 minutes of that movie, you'll see a very dark scene. And the director needed some neon lighting. And today, if you went to do filming and say you wanted to use a Budweiser sign or a Coca-Cola sign, you do not do that. It takes 3 days of negotiations before you can legally put one of those signs into it. So anytime you see a movie now with a product in it, believe me, it took a long time to negotiate that, using that in there. So he needed a sign, and we had Red River Lager. John Wayne copyrighted the name Red River because he had 2 ranches, and he made a very well-known movie called Red River. So we have the Red River Lager neon sign, and if you'll watch the last few minutes, you'll see it in there. Now they want that sign to go to the John Wayne Museum at John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California, so we're going to give that to them. But you'll see that in there, in that movie. In the last 10 minutes or so, it'll say Red River Lager, but it will be that neon sign. We also have the room divider that Angie Dickinson throws her stockings across in Rio Bravo, and many other items that we still haven't identified. But what we have, we are going to donate to the museum out there. There's a Rogers family that own TV stations and all in the West, and they donated the first $1 million to the museum there to get us started, and this will be the 3rd year in existence. So we have those items, and while they don't really have that much history, I guess, in them, but they do seem to draw the same people who are very much interested in history. So that there may be some things that we can get to you. One thing I'm thinking in particular that might help get a little bit of a draw is we have the 50 caliber Hawken that Jeremiah Johnson, Robert Redford used in the movie Jeremiah Johnson. We're going to donate that item to somewhere too. But I'm sure from what we have collected and my family collected in this area over many, many years that we'll have some things that we could help.
For that rifle, I'm sure we could get Jerry to do some manservice.
Yes, sir, we will. If you don't give us something, no, I got some kinfolks who will come collect on it.
Okay. Well, if that's just about it, if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
We wanted to give you a little gift for the lady that's prettier than you. You can give it to her, and this is something to remember us by when you're making all these donations.
Oh, okay.
I remember that bunch of country folks.
Thank you very
And
much.
Jerry, we got something for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anything else? Margaret has got quick announcement.
Some of you remember Frances Jones, and she was going to try to be here tonight, but the only person she could talk in common with, it was an 83-year-old lady, and she just didn't feel that was quite adequate for coming tonight. But her main mission is to make sure everybody's registered to vote. All of you, I told her, I thought all of our members surely were registered, and not only are registered, but would.
Vote. Absolutely.
So, there you go.
Vote early, vote often.
So be sure that you, if you haven't registered, do it.
I'll ask you a question. What about if the candidates don't live up to your specs? What do you do? Don't vote?
If you did, I never would vote.
Well,
Okay.
The lesser of the evil, that's right.
Okay, let's go back to the back and have coffee, tea, sweet stuff, conversations. Remember, we don't tell no tales tonight. So let's all.
One little quick thing, Jerry. All these
I want to look at.
programs we have now is on
Hold it
tape,
where you
actually on
This way, where you-
CDR,
see, it's a double barrel.
and you can purchase these things from us for $10. Anything that y'all miss, like Miss Cake Birds from 2 months ago, and Willie Carter's from a month ago, we got those for sale. Billy does those for us, and he does a real good job. And this one, it'll be on CDR too.
Okay. Let's do what we do best. Eat.
That was made about 1806 on this. This was made about 1806, according to what we were able to best.
Yeah, one on candy.
That's white gold.
I know that. Yeah,
So I can tell that.
Quiet, can't hear it. Oh, they told me. I don't know if you mentioned it.
Get back your shot.
Are you familiar with the,
Stir this up. Can you stir them?
Say what? Yeah, speak up.
Stir them. Stir them out.
March 23rd, 1976.
high up people, they, you know.
They say there's no downtown.
You know, like,
All right, Earl, let's get back to the sorry, man, down. Hold it, Earl. Let's get my buddy. Come on over, dog. Come on, Gary. I want you in here too. I wouldn't have all my old buddies.
Yeah, you figure if they got
Can you get us all over? To get my good side.
one of the things that
Oh, right.
they figured about 70% of the Confederacy, and that they would be they would throw down the shotgun here and pick up Springfield.
And cake. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Did I take your job?
Yeah, well, I just was gonna see if it would help me, but
You don't want to go for that?
Skill. Pardon?
Yeah, there's a small one.
I should see if I can
high-ranking officers.
She's working on it.
Somebody who's or maybe somebody read that and goes, you'll like it.
Y'all gonna leave before you get caught this time. Turn that camera on. He may have to buy all kinds of
Well, that's not usually, I don't usually talk about that. I lecture on the time.
Bill comments now, we point around.
Depends on how they feel.
I think I'll have you since you're playing with it. That's
Well, she licked them clean. Huh? The old Jerry Flower thing where he said, "Boy, I told you to lick that my thing before you stick it back in the butter." I like Jerry Flower stuff. Like the time they done, remember that last piece of chicken in the Jerry Flower tails?
Uncle Mercy.
Yeah, everybody was looking at them. The wind blew the lamp out. There was a rustling sound and then a blood started to scream. And then when they got the light lit back, there was Uncle Mercy with 11 forks stuck in his hand. Everybody else was grabbing for the chicken. Everybody else was forking for the chicken. He grabbed the chicken.
What about the time the ASHS went to visit Bill Ann when she was in the hospital? Ate up the whole bottle of peanuts. Come to find out she'd already eaten all the chocolate off her. Yeah.
That's always been a favorite of mine.
That's all right, son. Old as I am, all I can do is eat the chocolate off.
I've been trying to get a copy.
I just drank out of it too.
You did say you said.
Mine graduates in history.
Anthropology.
Mine are diggers and his are in the
Years ago.
Mary Ann, was that tea over there?
Probably what anthropology is very
Mary Ann, did you see those jars over here? Oh, do you?
And I really, getting
He's probably like me, he just needs something going.
They were back here. Too. I don't know when. I think they got with us for about a year. When we first got them, we sold several of them all at one time. This time over.
Now, does that one belong to somebody?
We're down to the white part of town. And
Yeah,
it was
but
right
he said
at
it's
the
not.
everybody was sitting on the porch.
Did you get my email?
Well, your email change
And they
address?
were calling out to each other and having conversations.
Just a couple weeks ago?
And just like I had faith in them when
Yeah,
I was
okay.
little,
Yeah.
sitting with white people. It was like,
I got this thing from it, but
And I'm just gonna corner in between that and work and figuring out what.
Keep up that writing, man.
I had to take what the right was saying.
Whatever pops in your head.
Usually, it doesn't even touch my head, it just starts coming out the fingers. I sit down and start typing,
That's the
then I turn it down to
best.
500 words, it's still recording.
That's the best kind.
You know, it just depends on how they every other week, calling for the news journal.
Well, they just screwed us up. So the ledger screwed up last week. Printed the same column the week before. So now, the one that I sent in will be out of date. Sort of. You can't always
And you run into that.
Do you do a article?
put the book.
Right now, I'm spending a lot of time getting
Jerry and I already. McKinley doesn't put it on.
I really did a roof on my place of hurricane.
His,
And the insurance company said there wasn't anything wrong
I
with
guess
it.
they're cousins.
We did reach out on the dormer, the deck collapsed, and there's nothing wrong with that roof.
Ethel lives out there near the prison.
So you live in Pittsburgh?
She wrote this little book.
Bluff Springs.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people get Bluff Springs Century mixed up. Some people get Bluff Springs and Bourbon mixed up.
Well, Jerry, I told him, you move up in life, I'm moving down to Bluff Springs.
Yeah, that's right.
When I go all the way down there, it's locked up.
I ran across the old follow
I got a doctor. I
entertainment,
got a doctor who's younger.
Do what?
about the entertainment at the city council meeting. I love
The
it.
century fight?
Yeah, it's great.
All this, and anything that goes on, he sends me off.
Becky took some yesterday, I was here, I was very good.
Get an acre or two.
He was the engineer on that train. Had him this engineer over there that, John,
Family with you now.
Well, actually, we are.
Lord, you know, like we set the event, like, we'll be on the 29th November. Me and Barney's gonna come out here about 12 o'clock the day before, on Friday. Grill. Never satisfied.
Everything needs something.
You got to let me know.
Yeah, I heard people put salt in
It's
the
gonna be
salt.
the 29th. I'll have to write this down. I'll call Fair and ask you about it. Can you come up? She might. I don't know. She might sing some. I don't know if she sings too. She might take 30 minutes or something. Sing a couple songs. I'll find it.
I believe it was the Maya that the Maya were before the Aztecs. But you know, reading, some villages don't realize they ever were
If she wants
Aztecs.
to bring her,
The conquistadors came to basically stay from
Different areas,
Aztec Mayas.
Mayans and Aztecs, different areas.
When you look for a
Yeah, I
clock,
guess
they
so.
still remember how the week, but they don't remember how the month.
don't know, ask Angie if she wants to.
He teaches two different
Angie's granddaughter,
dialects.
they have the twirlers.
Yeah. And she'll live there, and that's it.
I'll ask
Love
her.
for her.
I know last year she didn't know at the time.
My wife got mad one time. Somebody was
I'll ask her.
saying that about how there's only one group of people in this country that actually speak Elizabethan English, and that's people in the Appalachians. One girl stuck her nose up and sound like hillbillies to me. Yeah. Speaking Elizabethan English. I mean, some of the places in Mexico that way with the Maya tongue.
Well, a lot of it down the Yucatan is pretty fluted.
Not a thing.
It's pretty fluted and they're
Hard
pretty
redneck.
good when you get out the Yucatan. But if you go, we go up and work along the Chiapas.
Especially,
So and they go across.
especially if the red on your neck was earned the hard way.
But,
Get out in the yard and work.
when we're working, keep one of the contractors always ladies groups.
I thought it had
They're just like anything
somebody
else,
told
but
me
for
it
some
had
reason they
did something with,
they'll say, oh,
kind of
indigenous
colored
there,
bandana that
people are so ugly, they think so well of the earth, and they do all this stuff. Well, they're just human like everybody else. When you get two weaving co-ops, I've seen one burn, a group of burning animals, same with that, the market. People don't usually picture it.
So they couldn't break out the stuff either. If they ever did, they'd remember their loved ones are there.
Yeah, some of the people we know.
Just like around here.
My family's from northern Alabama, but they all fought the same wars. And then when I went to Texas, his ended up going earlier. But out west, all the major families are from Alabama.
You ever read the book,
It's getting cool, man.
History of Baptist in Alabama?